The ground shakes. A rifle shot cracks the air. A man falls before he understands why. Dust rises, swallowing the sound, covering the blood, erasing footprints. A wagon keeps moving. No one stops. No one looks back. In the American West of the 1800s, stopping was a mistake you rarely survived. This was a land where hesitation could cost your life, and where hope pushed people forward even when reason screamed for them to turn back. But what kind of world forces thousands to walk willingly into danger, hunger, and violence? What dream was powerful enough to pull an entire nation across a continent? What was unfolding was not just expansion, it was a rupture in human history. During the 19th century, the United States surged westward, driven by ambition, belief, and desperation. The frontier was not empty, it was already alive. Native nations had lived on these lands for generations, shaping the environment, trading across vast distances, and surviving in balance with nature. But the arrival of settlers turned the West into a pressure point where civilizations collided. This was not slow change, it was sudden, aggressive, and irreversible. The expansion of the American West reshaped borders, destroyed cultures, and redefined what progress meant. Today, the Old West is often romanticized as lawless, crude, and primitive. But before the chaos, there was order. Before the violence, there was stability. Many indigenous societies had complex systems of governance, spiritual traditions, and economies that thrived without cities or factories. Even early frontier settlements functioned with fragile cooperation. Trade flowed, roots were shared, life was harsh but not yet broken. The collapse did not come from weakness, it came from momentum, from the unstoppable belief that land existed to be taken and that expansion was destiny. In the early 1800s, American society was obsessed with growth. Population was exploding, cities on the East Coast were overcrowded, opportunity felt limited. The West promised space, land, freedom, and reinvention. Railroads stretched like veins across the continent. Steamships carried waves of immigrants chasing a better future. Ideas, money, and ambition traveled faster than ever before. This interconnected world felt modern, unstoppable, and successful. But that very success created fragility. The more the system expanded, the harder it became to control. Every mile west increased the distance between law and chaos. The origins of the disaster were distant and quiet. There was no single moment, no official declaration. It began with small decisions, a family choosing to move, a company claiming land, a government drawing lines on a map without understanding what lived there. Animals carried diseases unfamiliar to local populations. Hunting intensified beyond sustainability. The environment began to fracture. Forests disappeared, buffalo herds collapsed, rivers were diverted. Each change seemed manageable on its own. Together, they destabilized an entire region. The true point of contact came along the trails. Paths like the Oregon Trail became arteries of transformation. Thousands of wagons crossed plains and mountains, each carrying fear and hope in equal measure. Every campsite became a potential outbreak of illness. Every river crossing brought conflict. These trails were not just routes, they were gateways. Once passed, there was no turning back. The frontier was no longer distant, it lived inside those who crossed it. The spread was relentless. Boomtowns appeared overnight. Gold drew men from across the world. Where gold appeared, order vanished. Violence followed. Gambling halls, saloons, and brothels dominated daily life. Families arrived seeking stability and found only uncertainty. Men disappeared. Women were left alone in unforgiving landscapes. Graves multiplied along roads that had no names. The West echoed with ambition and despair in equal measure. People searched desperately for explanations. Some claimed it was God's will. Others believed violence was the price of civilization. Science offered little clarity. Law was distant or absent. Vigilante justice became normal. Sheriffs were outnumbered. Courts were ignored. Every attempt to impose control created new enemies. The frontier consumed order faster than it could be built. As fears spread, society began to fracture. Trust collapsed, neighbors became threats, life lost its value. Diaries from the era described sleepless nights and constant anxiety. Children grew up surrounded by death. Communities lived in permanent tension. Morality bent under pressure. Survival became the only rule that mattered. Desperation turned into radicalization. Violence gained ideology. Native peoples were labeled obstacles. Immigrants became scapegoats. Entire communities were blamed for instability they did not create. Massacres occurred. Forced removals followed. Progress marched forward fueled by fear and dehumanization. The cost was paid by those with the least power. The devastation reached far beyond towns. Rural areas emptied, farms failed, entire villages vanished. Nature reclaimed abandoned land, animals returned to ruins, silence fell where life once thrived. The West suffered as a whole, not just its cities. Eventually, the expansion slowed, not because peace was achieved, but because there was nowhere left to go. The frontier closed. The violence faded from exhaustion, not resolution. What remained was a transformed nation. The world that followed was wealthier, more connected, and more powerful, but it was built on scars. The American West shaped modern identity, economics, and myth. Its legacy still defines how progress is imagined. And as we look back, one question lingers. Did humanity learn from the cost of expansion, or are we still chasing frontiers blind to what we destroy along the way? Because to understand the American West of the 1800s is to understand ourselves.